Hey y'all, it's okay. I wanted to say this is Kobe R. Rice, but apparently I am not showing up on the screen, and this is exactly what I get for not being on here in like over a week. So that is my karma. Guys, give me 1 second because I definitely don't want to teach off screen. Um, so yeah, let me see what I can do about this. Hold on. Is it is it gonna work? Oh my gosh. How embarrassing. Let's see. It was literally working a second ago and it's just too crazy. Hold on. Maybe if I change the definition. Okay, let's see. Did that work? No, it did not. That is so crazy. Oh my gosh. Okay, listen. I'm gonna do the live anyway because that's what we're doing out here. Sorry, my camera's not working. I hate teaching without it, but let's just jump right into it. So, since you can't see my face, which is ridiculous, I am gonna show you the slides for today because I haven't been on here in a while, and I really want to jump into all the stuff that I have missed out on teaching you guys for the past week. I've been super busy, so sorry about that ahead of time. But I do have some really great tips for you guys in terms of writing and in terms of how to also bring your first, what I call shitty drafts, quote unquote, to fruition, right? So I'm only going to say that word once because I do want to try to keep things, I don't know, family friendly, I guess, even though I don't have many I don't have many people watching my stream, and that's totally cool. I'm totally cool with that. Let me just get this up here, and hopefully, guys, you will be able to see me at some point in time. But if not, hey, it is what it is, and let's get on into it. Let's remove this from stage. Guys, give me 1 second. Um, Add to stage. I would like to move my logo down to the bottom. Everything is just like a hot mess. At the same time, too, what I do love, FYI, while I'm getting all this together, I am going to be switching platforms, which for me is really important because that means that I can do a whole lot more with my live streams, which I'm going to be doing a lot more often. So I'm pretty amped about that. And I'll be making an announcement about that on my channel. That'll be a pre recorded video and an update video, not a live. All right. Anyway, enough about me. Let's get right into it. So, hi guys, I am back. And of course, it's no longer November, no longer NaNoWriMo, so to speak. So, we're done with the rebrand of NaNoWriMo and all of my cozy creator, well, not all of them, I would say everyone but one has actually closed down. So all the free book giveaways that I did all month, those are done. A lot of people came to the links, and a lot of people downloaded a whole lot of free books. So I'm really happy about that. And we also got quite a few entrants into the Cozy Creator giveaway, which also closed on November 30th. And I was supposed to make an announcement of the winner today. I'll probably do that at the top of tomorrow, more than likely. I'm just trying to squeeze out time here. But those particular giveaways are done. However, because gift giving is my love language, I have opened up a whole series of new giveaways. So I'm going to introduce our topics for today in a second. But in case you're wondering if you want to grab even more free books or enter more giveaways, we have a fresh wave now that it's December. We're in, the first month of winter, so to speak, and we're also in the holiday season. For those of you who celebrate Christmas, for those of you who celebrate Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or you just love the holidays and the spirit of it, this is a great opportunity for you guys to grab some absolutely amazing free books. I am running a giveaway called the 25 Days of Box Sets giveaway. And that means that 25 authors came together and are offering minimum two, I think even up to like 8 books free from their backlists. And all these authors are in the sci-fi and fantasy genre. So if you're interested in getting some free box sets from 25 different indie authors. Definitely holler at the links below in my description and navigate to the 25 days of box sets book downloads link, which is there. Um, and as you can see here on the screen, I'm all, obviously being that I'm the creator and like host of this giveaway. I'm offering three of my books totally free, just for a limited time only until December 25th. So you can get the first three books in my Books of Ezekiel series, which is a dystopian and action sci-fi thriller slash sprinkle with urban fantasy because it's about alchemy. But there's some really awesome stuff going on here. And then we literally have, as I said, 24 other authors in addition to myself offering the first 2 to sometimes 8 books in their series 1,000% free. So this is another author here who is in the giveaway, but I have graphics and promo is coming for each of the individual authors so you can find out more about what their series are about and download to your heart's content. So it's a really amazing giveaway. Definitely jump into the description and click away and get your free box sets. Along with that, I do have what I'm calling the 25 Days of Box Sets Ultimate Giveaway. And in this particular giveaway, you can win a grand prize just like in the Cozy Creator giveaway. However, I'm also giving out 25 other smaller holiday reader centric prizes. So, and I'm announcing the winners for that as well pretty much on a daily basis. So anyone who's on my list or anyone who enters that particular giveaway will get an announcement of what the prize is for that day and the winner of that prize. And then of course, everyone gets a free prize, which is 25 downloadable box sets. So this is a really awesome giveaway. People are super excited about it, authors and readers. So definitely jump into your free box sets and into the giveaways before it's over, because I'm going to choose the grand prize winner on the 26th. Okay. We also still have the Colby's Manga Madness giveaway that is running. It started in November and it's going to end on the last day of December. So that is still up and running if you're interested in manga or comics. And then we have our books of the day, The Coffee Break Screenwriter and Save the Cat, which very much gets into the theme of today, because I know those of you who are here specifically for writing, right? And to like find out more about how you can make your writing amazing. And so I want to introduce you to the days 25 through 28 that we were supposed to get to in the past week or so, and talk about the last 4 sequences. When I last of a story, when I last came on, and actually let me just double back just for a quick hot second. When I last talked to you guys about sequences, I introduced you guys to sequences 1 through 4. So, as you'll recall, sequence 1 is the status quo, sequence 2 was the devil in the doorway, and that's, it gives you story building blocks in stages, right? I gave you what happens in each of these sequences. I gave you a set of keywords to think about for each sequence, and then I gave you a checklist for each sequence. So sequence 1 and 2 was again the setup and the devil in the doorway. Sequence 3 and 4 were a whole new world and higher stakes, new dangers. Okay. And as I said, I will be making these slides and everything available to you guys so that you can review these past lessons and then also have references available to you. But that is forthcoming, and I have a lot on my plate, so please be patient with me. But now that we have gone over how to construct sequences 1 through 4 in your story, we're going to get to the second half of the story that you're putting together, which are sequences 5 through 8. So sequence 5 is subplot city, villains get shitty. Again, that's the last time I'll say that word, but that's essentially what that sequence is about. Sequence 6 is where evil gains the upper hand. Sequence 7, on enemy soil, the ultimate battle. And then sequence number 8, one last round, deciding the victor. Ooh, there's a typo. Okay, look at me out here trying to be a whole writer and having these typos for all to see. All right, so that's fixed. All right, so let's talk about the last four sequences. All right. So in sequence five, okay, subplot city, villains get shitty. This is where all the subplots that you have been developing throughout or harking to or hinting at throughout your story, this is where they really start to unpack, right? Um, I'll get to that in a second. And then the second half of this is villains get bold or the villain gets bold. So the questions you should be asking yourself this time around is or are who else vibes in the hero's world, right? Who else is involved? Who are the allies? What are their backstories? What is happening between the love interest and the hero? What is happening between the mentor and the hero? Those three aspects of your story need to be developed in this particular sequence. You should have been hinting at these story plots earlier on, but this is where you take them on more directly. The second question is how do they, meaning these subplots, tie into the mission and into battling the villain? All right. So you can really kind of, I wouldn't say take a pause. You do want to take some time to address these subplots because the closer these relationships are, or the more momentum they get or gain, the sadder it's going to be when the villain captures or kills these people, which is inevitably going to happen as of sequence six, but we'll get to that. Let's not get ahead. So, if you're thinking about keywords, let's say you couldn't remember anything that I just said to you just now about sequence five, your keywords for sequence five are villain pursues and love ensues. Okay. So when and love can be like romantic love, friendship love, like the bonds between people, whatever it is, it harks to those subplots, to those relationships, right? With the villain pursues, you should see at some point a breach, right? Where the villain is finally coming onto the heroes or the allies' territory. Okay, and we'll talk more about that in our checklist. So, what is included in sequence five? If we could put together a checklist, what would it be? Well, it's right here. Okay. So, in sequence four, before we get to sequence four, we talked about plot point number four being the midpoint, which is the highest point, the happiest point, the calmest point, the safest and most secure point for the hero in the story, right? Nothing is as good as the midpoint for the hero until the hero has defeated the villain in the end. So the midpoint is like the nirvana for the hero. Right after the midpoint comes the crisis point, because in order for the villain to convincingly take hold of the allies' territory, the villain has to make a clear decision to step from his world into the allies' world. And that is called the crisis point, where the villain pretty much breaks into the allied territory and causes mayhem. Something explodes, they attack, they have a surprise ambush, somebody within the party or the fellowship of the allies betrays them and sells them out to the villain and leaves them vulnerable. You have to develop a specific point where the villain is going to attack, essentially. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the plot points. So in this particular scene or sequence, you're going to watch the villain have his day and turn the tides in his favor with regard to the main mission. You're also going to have the hero have her second character reflection and ask herself, who am I? Right? And then you're also going to watch the hero make her second character choice, where she decides who she is. She tries to be somebody different, but she fails. Right? So, in the first, when we talked about character arc, I asked you to develop those 3 points in a character's journey where the character is facing herself and her critical history. In the first character reflection, she asked herself, who am I? Pretty much answers, I already know who I am and I'm sticking to it. And when they're faced with their first character choice, she doesn't even try or doesn't even acknowledge her damage or her dysfunction or acknowledges it, right? But doesn't attempt to resolve it because she does not see that there's a problem, right? That happens at some point in the first four sequences, specifically in sequence three or four. All right. But in this particular sequence, she actually faces herself, tries to maybe do something different, but fails because she hasn't completed the entire character arc. She hasn't figured out that final piece of herself. She hasn't figured out a way to heal the flaw or to overcome her dysfunctional worldview of herself. Okay. So that's an important thing to add into your checklist for sequence 5, this moment of reflection and this choice. As I mentioned to you before, also, you're going to watch the hero bond with the love interest and strengthen the relationship with the mentor through challenges, right? So the hero is going to have challenges, the hero is going to have questions, the hero is going to have, certain thoughts, reservations, and they're going to make choices where they're either going to step into facing those challenges or they're going to shrink back from them. And the love interest and the mentor's relationship will either evolve, right? Or it's going to devolve. All right. So in this particular development of the subplots and the relationship plots, we're going to see the love interest or mentor's view of the hero evolve, but it won't necessarily completely solidify, right? Just like in not Morpheus, in the Matrix, where Morpheus sees in the second half of the movie some signs of Neo, being the one, so to speak, right? And he recognizes that Neo has these moments of potential that are going from potential energy to kinetic moments, but Neo himself still has not come to that conclusion. And so the mentor, Morpheus, can't really push Neo beyond his own view of himself, right? So Morpheus believes that Neo is the one, but he has not seen evidence yet of that solidifying for him in the Matrix. The other thing that I want to mention that I briefly touched on a second ago was that the love interest or mentor's perspective, POV of the hero, can evolve or even devolve depending on the hero's actions. The mentor or the love interest don't always have to keep falling in love with the hero. There can be very clear moments where the hero does some crazy stuff, you know what I'm saying, some wild stuff or some off kilter stuff. And the love interest is like, "Ooh, that was a turn off," or "Oh, I didn't like that," or "I'm not here for that," or "I'm stronger than you." There are those moments, right? And so you want to make sure that you are following the action reaction causality chain in a way that makes sense, right? If Neo started running away from every single battle in the Matrix, like Trinity probably would have been turned off, right? Neo had moments of doubt. Neo had moments of like, I don't think I'm the one, but he never stopped trying to do the good thing and the right thing. And that continued to impress Trinity, right? Even when Morpheus was captured, it was Neo's idea to go back into the Matrix and save him. That did not come from Trinity. It didn't come from anyone else. Matter of fact, they were trying to get him to stay out of the Matrix because they felt that he was more important. But Neo was starting to realize that the prophecy about him might be true and that regardless, he has to go in and save Morpheus. Actually, in that moment, to be more accurate, Neo at that point doesn't even believe that the prophecy is necessarily true. He says, "I'm not the one. I know that now, but there's something that I do believe that I can bring him back." So this is actually a perfect encapsulation of this second character choice and second character reflection, right? Where basically Neo's like, well, everybody thinks I'm this savior. I don't agree, right? I don't agree that I'm the savior, but I did learn something about myself, and I do believe that I'm badass enough to go and get Morpheus back, even if I'm not the one, right? So this is a very clear moment of reflection and choice. And as a result, the love interest, Trinity, her perspective of Neo evolves in that very moment. She was telling him, son, this is suicide. You're not going back in, da 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 da. Then they argue or what have you. And she wasn't originally going to go back in and get Morpheus, but then she actually decides that she's going to pair up with Neo, that they're going to like link up and go storm the castle, so to speak. And she he has earned respect from her, and she believes that she can help him in this quest. So this is an example of how her perspective, even though she's like, you don't have what it takes to take on the machines and the AI, like it evolves in that very moment where she's like, all right, you got some guts, but I'm gonna help you out. Right. So all of those things in sequence five are really important for establishing a you know, a really robust and rich sequence. I'm gonna pause right there. Okay, guys, give me 1 second. Okay, team, let's move back into it. Um, let's go to sequence six. All right. So for sequence six, very clearly and straightforward, this is where everything pops off. Like the villain has come in, maybe breached a little bit, messed some stuff up, caused some havoc. Sequence six is really where like the fight like goes crazy, right? This is where the enemies close in and specifically they gain the upper hand. Those are the two big moments in sequence six. Basically, evil has something up its sleeve that the hero didn't know about, and now the hero is fighting for her entire life. Okay. So the key word for this sequence is that the villain gains the upper hand. Let's talk about the checklist for this sequence. Sequence six is where we watch the hero tackle the main mission, essentially for the first time. Okay. Well, maybe not for the first time, but like this is kind of when the main mission is brought into the hero's face in a massive way. And one thing I forgot to put in here that this definitely needs to be a life or death scenario. Okay. The villain is trying to kill their enemies from the main hero to the side hero to the npcs. Everybody's going to die because that villain needs to win. So in this sequence, in that endeavor, in the villain's endeavor, the hero's going to put up a really good fight, but the villain gains the upper hand. Those should be very clear moments in this sequence. This is actually also where all the big movie moments or the novel moments or the game moments, action sequences, sexy action scenes happen. All right. This is where like literally everything on the poster, everything goes down except the villain essentially is the star. And that, you know what? And oh, I can't make an edit here. I'm going to make an edit from the future downloadable slides. The villain essentially is the star. Like they are winning, they are eating, and they're leaving no crumbs. All right. So basically, where in sequence four, the hero is the star and is gaining all of this momentum and learning and succeeding. Now it's time for the villain to shine. Okay. This is also where the high stakes and ultimate danger manifest themselves. All right. So the high stakes that we established in sequence four and like the new dangers that we established in sequence four, all of them are coming back to haunt the main character. So let's stick with the example of the Matrix, right? We learned number one in sequence four or sequence three and four that if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life. We are seeing that happen in sequence six in the Matrix. Cypher, who is one of the crew of the Nebuchadnezzar with Trinity, Morpheus, Mouse, and everybody else, he betrays the team, leaves them open and vulnerable, leads them into a trap. They get ambushed by Mr. Smith, the AI agents, and also the machines, right? People are getting killed, like the crew is getting killed. I think at least half the crew gets offed. And we see as they're dying in the Matrix, we actually see them dying in real life, pretty violently, actually, right? And so what that warning, that stake that was established in sequence four, we are seeing that manifest in sequence six. It has to manifest in sequence six. All right. Sequence six should be the first place that all of those warnings manifest. And you can make them manifest earlier in sequence five, but definitely by sequence six, we need to have seen it on the screen or on the page or or in the game, right? Sequence seven cannot be the first time we see those stakes manifest because at that point, sequence seven is already on and popping. Okay. The ultimate dangers also should be manifesting themselves, right? So let's see. Neo also was warned that you can never take an agent on head to head, face to face, right? That was one of the three dangers. I didn't mention it in past lives, but that's one of the three dangers that was explained to him. Anybody who faces an agent dies because they do not have the skill or the freedom of their minds in order to fight the agents in the system. Neo has the moment of watching Morpheus, the OG, face off against the agent hand to hand, and he loses. Right. So that's another instance where that high stake and that new danger that Neo was introduced to in sequences 3 and 4, we're seeing that manifest in sequence 6. So almost every single danger and high stake that you talked about in sequence 4, we need to see it happen on the screen or on the page or in the game. Okay. Connected to that, some of the plants should be getting paid off, and these payoffs should overwhelm the hero and knock them off their feet. So I think of, in terms of like the plants, right? I'm thinking about the plot twists, the hidden dangers, the Easter eggs that we've been planting throughout the story. One of these plants in the Matrix is that we see Cypher. Oh, he's always been an op. Like from the beginning, he was the one who wasn't very excited about being in the real world. He wasn't really excited about Neo. He was in love with Trinity, was feeling spurned by Trinity. And so those moments were built into the story. Then we see him having dinner with one of the agents and making a deal. So we know that he is dirty, right? In this particular sequence, we see that his treachery has paid off, right? And the fact that we planted his treachery and that it's getting paid off in the form of the agents ambushing his crew and killing them, right? That is an example of a plant and a payoff. And you're going to have a few plants and payoffs. It's kind of outside of the scope of this particular series of lessons, but I do want to have like a little, I don't know, maybe weekend seminar or week-long seminar about how to do twist plants and payoffs, but that's later. But that's one of the few Easter eggs that should be getting paid off. A couple of things too is that you might want to hide certain things in plain sight that you know are going to manifest themselves in this sequence and beyond, right? Again, we'll talk about, that's a whole different thing outside of this lesson, but just think about, there's something to think about. What kinds of Easter eggs can you hide in plain sight, and what that we actually don't know about, and what kinds of plants can you put into place that we know to look for, like Cypher's betrayal, right? And how are we going to pay these off and when? And how are these payoffs going to overwhelm the hero and knock them off their feet? Another example of this that I want to talk about, because it's one of my favorite movies and they do this really well. In sequence, I believe it was 4 or 5. No, I think it was 4 in Aliens 2, the second one. I forget the guy's name, but the dude who was like basically wigs out. He kind of sounds like a surfer dude, and he wigs out at every single sign of like things being awful. Now I have to find out his name because I'm gonna go crazy if I don't know what this guy's name is. But he also was like the actor who played the main character in that Mormon show. Hold on a second. Um, Not Hudson, Hudson, who I love actually. Hold on a second. Here we go. Hudson in sequence 4, after they had their first bout with the aliens and the majority of the team gets wiped out, there's like 5 of them left. Hudson makes a point that where like these xenomorphs are coming out of eggs as face huggers, right? Then they implant their eggs in humans and they become xenomorphs, right? But then the question is asked, well, who's laying these eggs? And Hudson speculates that, like, just like an ant colony, or like a beehive, that there is a queen, and the queen is massive, and actually that is true in real life. Most colonies that have, or bee or hives or things like that, that have drones, like male drones, usually have like a queen, and she's usually massive, and the drones serve her, and she is the one who gives birth to the future generations of bees, wasps, ants, etc. Right? And so Hudson is like, the queen usually is like big and scary and like a big mother effer, you know what I'm saying? Um, and they don't know if that's true or not, but then this definitely gets paid off when Sigourney Weaver's character, Ripley, goes to save Newt in Act 3, and she thinks it might just be a run-of-the-mill rescue mission against the drones, and she bumps into the Queen, who is, like, terrifying and huge and like formidable. You know what I'm saying? And that is the ultimate boss. So one of the plants that you should be working on in your story is the ultimate boss and boss plant, right? That should definitely get paid off at some point, uh, before the story is over. Okay, this is also the place where all previous actions should see consequences. If the hero neglected to do something, if one of the side characters left a door open, if one of the characters or the main character, the hero, gets a piece of advice that's good advice and doesn't act on it, this is where we should see the consequences because the villain is going to exploit those oversights and those weaknesses. Okay, so figure out what actions, or I should have put slash inactions here, are going to see consequences in sequence 6. Then we're going to do plot point number 6, which is the black moment slash all is lost moment. This is the moment where the villain has assumed all the power, has destroyed everything, and has either killed or captured the love interest or mentor or both. If you want to go really crazy and really hard with the story, like this is a great way to do it, right? So definitely spend some time developing that moment. We talked about this moment a few weeks ago, but this is where you put that moment in sequence 6. All right, sequence 7. Let's talk about sequence 7, which is the ultimate battle. All right, the ultimate battle. I entitled this On Enemy Soil, the ultimate battle, because the hero has lost everything, as I mentioned in the last slide. Now she has no choice but to face evil on evil's own turf. So I talked to you guys when I spoke to you guys about Acts 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. I did mention verbally for each act that the acts are not just defined by the actions of the hero and the disposition of the world, but it's also defined by the turf that the hero is on. And if you'll recall, I talked about how Act 1, which contains sequences 1 and 2, that is firmly on the hero's turf, right? They're in their status quo world with their status quo life. They have a lot of issues, a lot of problems, and they're not able to solve them because they can't think outside the box, right? Then there's an inciting incident, which is the end of sequence 1. Then there's a devil in the doorway. And then there is plot point number 3, which is the point of no return, which is where the hero moves from their turf, which is Act 1, sequences 1 and 2, to the allied turf, the new world and allied turf, which is Act 2A, sequences 3 and 4, right? So in Act 2A, the turf is the allied turf. The hero has been adopted, taken in, led, nurtured, pushed sometimes into this new world, into their new adventure. And usually, briefly, they have some level of safety, some level of training because they're on allied turf. Act 2B, which is sequences 5 and 6, we are still in certain ways on allied turf or in a zone of safety, right, in the world. We're in the safe zone, usually on allied turf, and the villain pulls up and causes havoc. So this is really, I'm going to call this scorched earth territory, scorched earth turf, right? The earth that you know and that you love and that you feel comfortable with is now getting destroyed by the villain. All right. So it's like the polar opposite of the allies' turf in Act 2A. That's 2B. Then in Act 3, now we are firmly on enemy soil. All right. We're firmly on the enemy's turf. So when you think about, and Act 3, of course, contains sequences 7 and 8. So when you think about how to construct the world and the context of the hero, when you're talking about acts and sequences, think about turf. Act 1 is hero's turf. Act 2 is allied turf. Act 3 is the allies' turf slash scorched earth, where the villain has taken over and basically pervaded Allied turf. And then Act 2A, 2B, and Act 3 is the villain's turf. Okay. Keywords for sequence 7: hero versus the entire world. The hero has lost everything. They have nothing except the skills and the knowledge and maybe a talisman or a weapon or two that was conferred to them by their friends and or mentor and or love interest, right? They have nothing but themselves or their team. Like if this is like like a I don't want to whittle it down to genre, but like if certain members of the team have survived, or there are certain allies that are outside of this particular context that the hero can lean upon, usually he'll gather that team together in sequence 7, right? But ultimately, it will come down to him. So either the team is going to be a team of red shirts that get destroyed throughout their journey in the enemy's territory, or they get captured, or even if they survive, they are powerless against the villain, and it has to be the hero versus the villain. But for sequence 7, it's going to be hero and team versus the entire world in enemy territory. Here's our checklist. So in sequence 7, this is where we see plot point 7, which is the second point of no return. We're literally showing the transition of the hero from the scorched earth of his allies' turf to enemy territory. So whatever that looks like for you, that's what you have to develop in your story. In Aliens, Ripley has an opportunity to turn back from fighting the Queen. They're all on the ship together. The ship is ready to take off and leave the planet before the planet explodes, right? And Ripley is like, "Nope, I gotta go save Newt." And that's one thing that I want to make very clear when we're talking about points of no return, is that at any point before the point of no return, the hero can always turn back. But as I mentioned, maybe like a few lessons ago, they might secure a physical safety by turning away from their destiny, but they're going to experience an emotional and spiritual death, right? If they don't go and save the mentor, if they don't save the love interest, if they don't save their allies, if they don't face the enemy, they're safe, but they die other deaths. And I think that there is a quote even that talks about this, that brave men die once, but cowards die 1,000 deaths, or something of that nature. And that is very true when it comes to a character deciding to move beyond his current world into the point of no return, into the villain's territory. Once they make that transition, we're going to watch the hero and the hero's team, if it applies, enter enemy territory, usually for the first time. Okay. Um, and if it's not for the first time, like if one of them, for example, has breached enemy territory, and they're the scarred individual of the group, because that's usually what it is, then they'll be along with the team as like a guide. But like they get killed, or they end up betraying the team. That's usually what happens. They either get killed, betray the team, or they conquer their own character arc of trauma, right? Where they can actually overcome their trauma from having faced the enemy territory and face the enemy, right? And they end up being a better person, and or they end up dying in the fight to save the hero from something, but they've redeemed themselves, right? So we'll talk about act 3 and like characters and tropes in more detail in like another lesson. But Blake Snyder actually really nails this down, and I really haven't seen a story that doesn't follow or fall into one of those character tropes if there is someone who has been in enemy territory already, who goes along with the hero through the point of no return. I haven't seen it yet. This is why he's brilliant, because he's already kind of done this work for us. But we're going to do some case studies in the future to like see where this plays out. Okay, moving forward, let's go, because I'm about to be late for my second live, and whatever, it is what it is. In any case, all safety is gone. Once they cross over from the point of no return, through the point of no return, there's no elements or not even like any pretense of safety. and so are all external allies and exits. So once you cross this line into this threshold, any other external allies usually are inaccessible and you cannot go back without dying physically. In this instance, the hero must rely on himself and or his team, but ultimately victory will come down to him, as I stated before. All stakes are clear and all plans are paying off and converging on the hero. So if you haven't had all the stakes manifest themselves before now, if you haven't paid off all the plants and all the Easter eggs before now, this is where you do all of that. Okay. See, Act 3, all hell breaks loose. Like, it's John Wick essentially. John Wick kind of feels like the whole movie's in Act 3. Like they have like an Act 1, and then the rest of the movie is a whole Act 3, which is hilarious. But basically, like everything is paying off, everything's converging on the hero. You also usually have a ticking clock here and a clock trigger event. Some kind of escaping gas triggers a self-destruct sequence, or the villain's backup plans or the backup NPCs are converging on, another allied territory, either inside the villain's territory or outside the villain's territory. There's usually some kind of trigger that the villain has set up or that the circumstances have set up where a ticking clock begins. And so not only does the hero have to like fight through all these low to medium mini bosses and mini enemies, but they also have to do it within a certain time period. Okay. The hero also uses their newly acquired training skills and lessons from sequences 1 through 6 to cut through the low/medium hard enemy obstacles from the villain. Um, you know, in most stories, like logically, it makes sense to just go straight after the villain because, why not? If you're a hero, do you want to tire yourself out by fighting a whole army? No, like logically, absolutely not. But honestly, we like being entertained, and this is the part that tends to be the most entertaining. Watching Neo and Trinity clear out that lobby in sequence, I think it was either 6 or 7 in the Matrix. People will never forget the lobby fight scene. It has millions of views on YouTube. It's memorable, etc. The last stand, right, that Ripley makes, or not the last, but the second to last stand that Ripley makes against the Queen when she's getting Newt out, and that moment of tension, those prolonged moments of tension, and then the subsequent fight between the drones and Ripley or whatever after Ripley destroys the eggs, like that is iconic. Nobody's ever like forgetting that. And it would have been completely cut down had Ripley just decided, okay, I'm just gonna actually nuke the Queen, and I'm just gonna use my rocket launcher to nuke the Queen and kill the Queen, and then that's it. Like, we don't want that as the audience. We want to be thrilled. We want to see the character go pure badass and fight for the things that they love and overcome all these obstacles, right? So put that in there, entertain us, keep us engaged. You also might want to have a mini or medium boss. So if the villain has some kind of right hand man or woman or creature or some kind of otherworldly specter or whatever the case is that you have to get through in order to get to the villain, those are also great. Okay, we love ourselves a sub boss or a right hand or whatever. We love to see that. That also shows us that the hero can actually face off against an enemy that's way stronger than him, but less strong than the villain. But they can face off against the enemy, and using their ingenuity and their skills, usually it's a hard fight, they end up winning. And that's a very satisfying moment for us, especially if the medium boss was involved in like killing or capturing one of the hero's close friends or lover or whatever the case is, right? Then you want to develop the ultimate boss moment. It should be dramatic and impactful. Again, I'm going to go back to the Matrix and Aliens. That moment where Neo, he had a choice, right? When he was in that subway, he had a choice to run from Mr. Smith, or he had a choice to face Mr. Smith, right? Mr. Smith has just destroyed his exit, and Neo can run away from him. He can escape him. But he's like, no, like I'm gonna fight this guy. And that moment was really epic, with the newspaper tumbleweed and the subway and the shootout scene and the fight scene. Like, it was great. So that was a lovely dramatic moment. It was impactful because this is the hero having that mirror moment, right? Or a mirror moment and deciding, I don't know if I'm the one, but I'm gonna fight this guy anyway, right? So he's evolved in that way. In Alien, oh my gosh. Okay, once again, that ultimate moment of Ripley seeing the Queen in person for the first time and being so intimidated and terrified of this creature, right? But then she still decides, she makes a decision that she's going to rescue Newt, and she's going to even threaten the Queen and be like, sis, you got to let me walk out of here or I'm going to kill all of your eggs and burn them to death. And the Queen actually shows a moment of vulnerability and allows Ripley to walk out, right? But that face the ultimate boss moment, that first view that Ripley gets of the Queen is epic. And this is like a mark of really amazing storytelling because it was a dramatic moment, it was an impactful moment, and it pays off an earlier plant of information that we got from Hudson when he was speculating on where all these eggs were coming from. So it was a moment of realization at the same time, and it was great. Then things pop off, all right? They fight, and the fight should be everything the audience has been waiting for, okay? Neo versus Mr. Smith, that fight was fire, okay, in the subway. Ripley versus the Queen and all the drones, that fight was crazy, all right? And then Ripley and the Queen have another fight. But we're going to get to that in a second, all right? Before we have kind of like the final bout, we then have the third act twist, all right, which happens right at the end of sequence 7, or, if you so choose, the top of sequence 8. I like thinking about it as the end of sequence 7, where the hero has gained some kind of advantage, right? Or it looks like they're going to escape, or looks like they're going to win, but in fact, the villain has something else in store. Okay. And we talked about how to develop those particular moments a few weeks ago. So you can refer back to our plot point lessons. But this is where the villain, basically pulls that last final rabbit out of their hat, that last trick. After the last trick is pulled and the hero gets knocked on their buns, we have the final bout, which is sequence number 8. Okay. So I named this one last round, deciding the victor. So in this round, the evil has outmatched the hero. Even so, does the hero have what it takes to save what matters most? Okay. And as an example of what the third act twist might be right before sequence 8, in The Matrix, Neo thinks he's about to escape through another phone in a different apartment building. Come to find out, there was somebody in that apartment. Mr. Smith took over their body in The Matrix and ends up shooting Neo before he can reach the phone and escape, and thus kind of temporarily kills Neo. In Aliens, Ripley has faced off against the Queen, against the drones. Like, she's escaped with Newt. She's run low on ammo, but they've escaped. And the planet has actually been destroyed. So the entire alien planet was nuked. Okay. So the aliens, as far as they know, are done and dead. However, the third act twist is that the Queen actually attached herself to their spaceship. And so when their escape pod, went back into the bigger ship, which has been in orbit this entire time, it took the Queen with them. And Ripley discovers, through a very violent means, that the Queen is actually now on the ship with them. She has no weapons, no guns, and the Queen is pissed. Ripley done killed all of her drones, which are basically all her children. She killed all the face huggers, which are her children. And this is a pissed off mama xenomorph ready to throw hands with the other woman who basically committed genocide on her entire alien children and her alien family. So the third act twist is that the Queen endures, and she's about to show Ripley who's really the boss. Okay. So evil has outmatched the hero. Does the hero have what it takes to save what matters most? The key words for this sequence, in my opinion, would be pencils down, the new normal. So let's talk about what that means. Pencils down, when we say that, that means no more learning, no more lessons, like now it's really time to show who you are and see if what you have learned and what you have become is enough. Okay. All right. So the checklist, sequence 8 is where we watch the hero have her third character reflection, and we also watch the hero make her third character choice, right? So in the Matrix specifically, after Mr. Smith has essentially killed Neo, uh, both characters, not just Neo, but Trinity, have a character reflection moment. Trinity realizes that the one that she is in love with is Neo, and through the power of love, resurrects him inside of the Matrix by giving his actual body in real life a kiss. That was her choice. She was like, you can't be dead because I'm in love with you. And the one, the oracle told me that I would fall in love with the one, and the one cannot die. So she has finally overcome the doubt inside of herself, and her choice was that she kisses Neo, which breathes life back into him. I still don't know how to this day that makes any sense, but the movie is still perfect, and I don't care. Fight me. For Neo, when he is resurrected, like she has helped him come to the conclusion that this is who he is. Because how can you not come to the conclusion that you're the one after you just died and you came back to life? Like, make it make sense, right? So his resurrection in itself was a moment of reflection for him. And we actually, in this part of the movie, we actually see him kind of like reflect in a weird way, right? When the agents lift their guns, Neo stands up because he's alive again. The agents raise their guns to shoot him, and he literally says, kind of like pensively, no, like rejecting all of their interpretations of who he is. And he stops the bullets in midair. He actually takes a moment and picks up a bullet, or picks a bullet out of midair, and like looks at it. Like he is clearly coming to this reflective, manifesting moment where he's like, oh, I am the one. Look at what I'm doing. Oh, look at these bullets. How curious. And then he decides, after he realized that he is the one, that he's going to face off against Mr. Smith. But there's no more, vying back and forth, bandying back and forth. He just goes straight and jumps straight into the villain and makes the villain explode. That was his choice. He has decided on who he is, and now his choice is to face and overcome his critical history, as I put here. And he's using his new identity and knowledge against the enemy, which is that he is the one and that he can do anything he wants. And he succeeds by making Mr. Smith explode. Okay. And that brings us to plot point number 9. Actually, sorry. Another example, right? Ripley realizes that the queen is on the ship, right? And she has no weapons. But she realizes in the moment, essentially, this is my interpretation, what she's actually fighting for. Because the queen is after Newt as well. Like she goes after Newt, and Ripley makes a choice to jump into her mech loader suit and fight the queen, literally hand to hand, which is like a gangster scene. And her character choice literally is encapsulated in one phrase, and that's "get away from her, you bitch." Also iconic, right? So that is her choice. Her reflection is, I was not a good mother before, or I wasn't a present mother. I have an opportunity to heal that part of myself and to save somebody I care about and myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to choose to fight this evil queen. Okay. And both of those scenes are iconic when it comes to these reflective moments. Plot point number 9. We're almost there, y'all. The resolution / moment of victory. This should be a decisive moment of victory, like a clear, the hero has won. They make the villain explode, they shoot the villain's head off, they throw the villain into an airlock and eject them into space. Whatever it is, it should be the climax of the battle between the hero and the villain. And sometimes we even get a moment of surprise from the hero that's also kind of satisfying, right? This doesn't happen in all movies, but there are certain things, again, that you can weave into the hero's development through plants and payoffs, right? So you can plant something in the beginning of the story that might come back to help the hero in the end. That's going to be up to you. It's not necessarily something you have to do, but it's satisfying when it is done very well, right? Um, then we have plot point 10. After the moment of victory and the battle has been decided, we have to establish the new normal and or establish the endurance of evil. And you can do this in three clear ways. Number one, you need to establish a contrasting end character image that is the opposite of their opening character image, or it should at least be an evolved version of the character, right? So if you have a series, right, like let's say you have a trilogy, you're not going to make your character go through all of their changes and be a completely different person by the end of the book necessarily. And even if you do, their journey should still present further problems or further flaws or new problems that they're going to face in books 2 and 3, right? So that's why I say your end character image should be the opposite of their opening character image, or should at least be an evolved version of that character. You're also going to establish a contrasting end world image that is the complete opposite of the open world image that you have established in your story. So if in the beginning of the story the world was a hot mess because of the villain, now the world is healed or it's at least evolved, right? In series, usually the world is not completely healed, only a portion of the world is healed. Okay? In Aliens, the end sequence establishes that at least in that small minute area of the franchise, the world is healed because the aliens first existed in the world and were causing havoc. Now they are all completely destroyed as far as we know, right? However, in a series, for example, in the Hunger Games, the end world image in book 1 is not that the capital is destroyed and the Hunger Games are over, but the nature and the outcome of the Hunger Games has definitely changed. Katniss and Peeta have proven to the Capitol that they don't have to play by the Capitol's rules, right? They don't have to leave just one person alive. They decide that they are going to both like commit suicide essentially and eat the poison berries so that nobody's a winner. And in that way, they're still claiming their own power by not allowing the capital to win and to award a victor, which is obviously very important to the capital, important to their propaganda, important to the narrative of their power, right? But when Katniss and Peeta threaten to take that power away from the capital by taking their own lives together and not leaving them a victor, the capital has to step in and say, we declare both of y'all the victor, but they're still pissed off because they were forced to move their hands. Right? They were forced to change up their flow. And so now the message is being sent to the rest of the districts and to Panem as a whole that the capital can be successfully defied. And that is the evolved version of the Hunger Games world, is that at first the capital had complete and total authoritarian power. And at the end, the whole world realized that they don't have all the power. We actually have some power of our own. And that provides conflict for the remainder of the trilogy, right? So that's a clear example of how the end world image doesn't always have to be a complete opposite image at the end. It can be an evolved version. If evil still endures, and it does usually in most series, right? If there's an evil that endures, then we also need to see that in this stage, in this sequence. So you need to design a moment where the evil enduring is made apparent, even if it's out of the sight of the hero, right? So in the Hunger Games, like it's obvious that the capital, the authoritarian regime is not destroyed. The Hunger Games will still continue in certain ways. And there is kind of a foreboding that Suzanne Collins puts into the story in the final chapter, right? In The Matrix, the evil still endures moment is very clear, right? His end character image is that he believes he's the one. He knows that he's an important part of the revolution. The end world image is an evolved version of the world because the matrix as a system still exists, but there is a portion of the matrix that is not behaving the way that it needs to. And that portion is manifested in Neo and manifested in all the humans who have escaped the matrix. And then evil enduring in the matrix, literally Neo is literally on the phone with evil telling them that the world that they know is different, it's changing, it's going to collapse, and he's going to be one of the primary factors and catalysts of that collapse, right? So we, in that conversation alone where Neo is talking to the enemy that still endures, we see that there's a clear moment where the evil endurance is made apparent. And this is not out of the sight of the hero necessarily, because he's on the phone, talking to the system, but there are a whole bunch of other dangers outside of himself and outside of the matrix that are also still at play. All right. So, team, this concludes our sequences 4 through 8. I'm already 20 minutes late for the next live, but that's okay. And in the next live, we are going to address writing your first bleep bleep draft, parts 1 through 2. And basically, I'm just going to give you, it's actually not going to be that long because I want it to be short, sweet, and I want it to be impactful for you guys. You can actually get to your writing, but we're going to talk about the different methods you can use to write your first crappy draft and some kind of tricks of the trade that I picked up along the way. All right. So having said that, I just want to remind you once again, and I'll be back on in 10 minutes. I just need a quick break. That our 25 days of box set giveaway is happening. Jump into the description, click the link where you can download any number of sci-fi and fantasy box sets of all different subgenres from amazing authors. You can also join the ultimate giveaway portion of this giveaway, where we're giving out a holiday gift on each day of Christmas or each day of December, all the way up to December 25th. And on December 26th, we're going to award the ultimate grand prize, which is basically the same type of prize that was available in the Cozy Creator giveaway. A set of cozies, a set of drinkies with supplies, a drink maker with supplies, a set of a snack maker with supplies set, and then a hobby set. So it's a great giveaway. Super excited to get people involved, and everybody gets a prize, which is these 25 box sets, which is amazing. And then we also have Kobe's Manga Madness giveaway, which also comes with a free prize, a free entry prize for anybody who wants to be a part of it. And then the ultimate prize for that one is a manga, comics, and animation creator kit. And then just a reminder that if you really want people who are far more adept at storytelling than I am to really break down the acts and the sequences and the plot point structure for you, to grab the books of the day, which are the Coffee Break Screenwriter and Save the Cat. Okay, team, I'm going to go take a little 10-minute break. I'll be back probably around 8:50 to bring this home with a final broadcast about your first crappy draft. Oh, was this unshared? My bad. I'm busy presenting and there's something on the screen. Hold on, team. How did I do that? I'm a hot mess today. There we go. So I'll be back in about 10 minutes. I just wanted to show you guys the actual giveaways that I'm doing. Check out the description, take a little coffee break, a bathroom break, go grab some free box sets, enter some contests in my description, and we'll be back at about 8:50. Bye.